Welcome to our broadcast. Tonight we spend the hour with a man who has already left his own unique mark on the face and history of New York City. If Donald Trump is not in the news for a high-stakes deal or a controversial new development, he may be in the gossip columns with his latest relationship. But less than 2 years ago, the news was that the Trump empire was in trouble, and some were quick to announce that the king had lost his crown. Donald Trump, some say, is out to prove them wrong and is currently writing his third book, which is The Art of the Comeback. And that's what we want to start with. Donald Trump is here, and I'm pleased to have him. Welcome.
Hi, Charlie.
Nice to have you here.
It's been a long time.
It has. We're in New Orleans, back during the Republican convention in a
right.
little room talking about, actually talking about the challenge of the Japanese at that time.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
Exactly right.
Now here is Trump, The Art of the Deal, and this is Trump surviving at the top. Right. And here is the Casino Journal saying gaming's greatest comeback. Here is, guess what, Casino Player, the comeback kid, Donald Trump's amazing turnaround. And here is New York Magazine out this week, fighting back, Trump scrambles off the canvas. Bill Clinton, after the New Hampshire primary, went out front and had a press conference, and he said, even though he came in second, said, I'm the comeback kid.
That's right.
And look what happened to Bill Clinton.
Right.
Now, if you could translate that for you, where would it be? Where would it take you to? What would be the equivalent of reaching the White House for you?
Well, I think just doing what I'm doing, Charlie. You know, I've had a really great streak over the last year. A lot of people went down. The economy is in a horrible condition, just a deplorable condition. The politicians destroyed the economy in 1986 when they passed a tax law that just destroyed the real estate industry, which in turn destroyed the banks and the savings banks and savings and loans. And I really got very lucky in a way. I built the Taj Mahal, which everyone said that's going to be his downfall. The Taj Mahal, it's over $1 billion building. And it's turned out to be one of the best deals I've ever made. It broke records for the last 3 months. It won over $40 million a month. No casino in history has won anywhere near that. All 3 of my casinos were rated 4 stars by the Mobile Travel Guide, and they're the only casinos in the United States that are so rated. So, you know, it's really been an incredible period of 6 or 7 months for me, and it's really been gratifying. Now they all want to do the comeback stories and everything else, and I think I probably care less about that than I would have maybe 3 or 4 years ago. But it's been a pretty good experience for me.
Then how are you different than you were 3 or 4 years ago?
Well, I used to say, and in fact I think I said in my first book that, and maybe this was foolish, but I really meant it, that someday I'd like to maybe lose everything for a period of time to see who's loyal and who's not loyal. And frankly, I found out a lot of things.
Did you find out who's loyal and not loyal?
I tell you what, and you can't guess it. You can't predict it. You think certain people would be loyal no matter what. And it turns out that they're not, and you just can't predict it. It's very difficult.
What hurt the most?
Well, it's a whole different scene, Charlie. I mean, we have a situation where you have everything going perfectly, and then one day you wake up and the world is coming to an end from the standpoint of the economy. But I just think that I've had a lot of luck. I've had a lot of friends. I've had a lot of good friends, and overall I've done really well with it, and I'm very happy about it.
I read all these numbers, and this is not investigative journalism here. We're interested in what makes you tick, and we don't have the resources or the manpower or the time doing a nightly show to do what somebody would do if they spent 6 months working on a piece about you.
But you do have the brain. So
help me with the numbers. Do you owe $5 billion?
No, at one point I guess I owed pretty close to $5 billion, but I had assets far in excess of that.
Yeah.
And they passed a 1986 tax law, which was just absolute stupidity by the politicians. And
yeah, but a lot of people supported that. I mean,
know
Norman and Baker and Bill Bradley and a lot of other people thought this was the tax reform act of all time.
Yeah, I like Bill
Bradley. And
Jack
Kemp too, did he not?
I like Bill Bradley, and I like a lot of the people that you mentioned, and they didn't really support, but Bill Bradley did very much.
Bradley was and
I have to tell you, he destroyed the home building industry in the United States. He destroyed the savings and loans in the United States.
The Tax Reform Act of '86
Absolutely. What happened is incentive was taken out of the real estate industry. And the industries such as savings and loans, they're based on real estate. And when the values went down, and they plummeted, they absolutely plummeted. So the savings and loans had billions of dollars in real estate that now all of a sudden is 1/2 the billions of dollars in real estate.
But you know better than I do is that during that time, I mean, the savings and loan crisis came about because a lot of savings and loan lent a lot of money to developers that were bad loans and should not ever have been made. And then
Charlie,
all of a sudden...
That's true. And I have to tell you, it's 100% true. But a lot of that was exacerbated. A lot of loans that could have been good loans were made into bad loans because of the change, because of the 1986 tax law change. And what that did is all of a sudden you had Resolution Trust, and you're paying billions and billions. In order to save $5 billion in taxes, we're now paying trillions of dollars to save industries and save banks.
And some people have come along and made a ton of money because of Resolution Trust.
And some people have made a lot of money.
Didn't I see where Ron Perlman the other day made $1 billion or something?
Well, I don't know what he made, but frankly, he's a good man. I hope he did make a lot of money. But it's the government's fault. The government passed a very stupid law. They have to put the incentive back into real estate. I think they're doing it. I think they're going to do it. It creates
Here's the other side. It is that people with great entrepreneurial gifts, like you, get yourself extended too far, too much debt and too much extension. And then when, as it happens in America, there is a business cycle, and when the economy goes up and goes down, if you get yourself extended too far and you've got a huge debt service, all of a sudden push comes to shove, and you find yourself in a very, very, between a rock and a hard place. And it's that, the extending yourself too far, that causes so many people to come to ruin.
Well, I think you're right. I mean, I think I'm not going to, not take blame for that. I think everybody takes blame for that, because anybody that does anything, the only people that don't get in trouble are the people that don't do anything.
If you play it safe and no risk, then there's no reward.
I mean, when I do things, I built the Taj Mahal. They said $1 billion building. How can it possibly? And now it's turned out to be tremendously successful. It takes time. You got to be able to get over the hump. Riverside South is going to be a tremendously successful
let's stop at Riverside South, though.
Okay.
I mean, first of all, here is one of the arguments made about Riverside South, that you faced a huge opposition on the part of the Planning Commission. A lot of people who did not want to see a huge development over there. You turned it around, and most people give you the credit for turning it around. So, was it 9-0? How many people on the commission? I don't remember.
12-0 vote.
12-0 vote. How did you do it, and did you make so many concessions in doing it that it no longer is an economically viable project?
Well, the only way you can talk about viability is what's going to happen with the market. Today, nothing's viable.
Gotcha.
Okay, today nothing is viable. You could have the greatest piece of land in the best location in New York, and nothing's viable. When I did the Grand Hyatt Hotel, I will tell you, the hotel market was in shambles. Everybody said, Donald, you're crazy. And I was crazy, and I did it. And all of a sudden, I got it zoned. I started building it. And by the time it opened, it was a tremendous job.
Yeah, but would it have been successful without the zoning and the abatements?
No, it wouldn't have. I mean, it wouldn't have. But
so
I got the
concession.
zoning.
Yeah, of course
absolutely. And now what we're doing is we're asking for certain things in order to make Riverside South successful. We have tremendous popularity. Every civic association virtually in New York is supporting it.
But they're supporting it because of the concessions you made in terms of subway, in
I'm
terms of how much parks and all of that kind of thing. And so the question remains,
well, the bottom line,
can you deliver on it?
Yeah, the bottom line is if the market comes back, you deliver. If the market doesn't come back, you don't deliver. Now, maybe Clinton's going to come up with a housing program where you're getting a subsidized housing or something, in which case you do it in a different way. We're looking to get zoning for a piece of land that's unzoned, that's employing no people, that's sitting there rotting, that's rat infested. And if I get the zoning, which I hope to be able to get, the city desperately needs the job. If the city turns around, and if the economy turns around, and if incentives are put back into real estate on a federal basis, No, there's always ifs, but there's been ifs in everything I ever did. But when I did Trump Tower, in all fairness, people said I was totally crazy. It couldn't possibly succeed. It was too big, it was too expensive, it was too everything. And it turned out to be probably the most successful condominium development ever in this country.
And is it profitable?
Trump Tower?
Yeah.
The most. I mean, it was the most successful development ever built in this country on a condominium basis. I will tell you, 2 years before I started construction, people thought I was totally crazy to do it. It really worked out to be fantastic. You can say the Taj Mahal, you can say Trump Plaza. I mean, so many of the jobs I do at the time I'm doing them are supposed to be not good, and they turn out to be tremendously
Who makes
successful.
the decision as to when you go? Is that a decision made by you, or is that a decision made by the bankers?
No.
And are you going to parcel those projects off?
I'll tell you what, the city is lucky to have the bankers that I have on my job, because they've invested a lot. They have confidence in me, they have confidence in the city, and frankly, they're very lucky, because otherwise it could be a war, it could be a this, it could be a that, and that would be bad for everybody. I mean, I have some really great banks on this particular site, and they've gone with me, and they believe in me, and I'll tell you what, it's going to be, I think ultimately the decision's going to be right, and it's going to be a great success.
You know what they say, when you owe as much money as you did, they become your partners.
Yeah, but that's really a false statement, because Reichman owed a lot more money than me, and nobody's partners with Reichman.
And he went bankrupt.
Reichman's in deep trouble.
Are they in bankruptcy? I want to be fair to them.
They are in bankruptcy, and frankly, they're in just very deep trouble. The banks, my banks have had a great confidence in me. They know I'm good. They know I do it the best, and they also know that I'm honest.
But did they have a choice?
Oh, absolutely.
They had a lot of money at stake.
They would have.
Were the assets enough there to get their loan back?
I'm not saying I would have been easy. had the other route gone. But I will tell you this. I will tell you this. They absolutely had a choice, and they could have gone a different route.
And what would
very
be
wisely,
what's the route they could have gone?
Well, it could have been a contentious route. Rather than working and, working with me, et cetera, it could have been a contentious route, and that would have been bad for me, would have been bad for them.
They could have put you up against the wall and said, you owe us this money, you can't pay it back, we call the tune.
They could have done that, and I think if they did that, it would have been bad for everybody, including them, and I think they understood that. But more importantly, see, I
bad for
found
them
out,
because they would have lost money.
Very much,
Right.
I think so. I think so. I found out a couple of things about banks. First of all, I find the banks to be very, very underrated in terms of the intelligence level, the whole thing. I mean, I have worked with the banks now very closely for a period of 2 years, and these guys have done a fantastic job, at least as far as my stuff is concerned. I've done great for them, and they've done great for me, and my thing is back. I mean, I believe that in 6 months, in 12 months, I may be stronger than I was 2 years ago or 3 years ago. I think I will be stronger than I was 2 or 3 years ago. I would like to see an uptick in the market. I think you're going to have an uptick in the market.
Why do you think you'll be stronger? I mean, now
Because
that you clearly have given up equity.
Very little equity. What have I given up? The story is that I gave up equity. What have I given up? I sold the shuttle for a lot of money.
But, well, you made more money than you sold it for more money than you paid for, or not?
No. I'll tell you what.
If you sold it for a lot of money, but sold it for less than you paid for, it's not positive.
No, I didn't reduce not for less. I reduced my debt by hundreds of millions of dollars by the sale of the shuttle, and
but
it worked out
you sold
great.
it for less than you paid for.
No, I didn't.
You didn't.
I actually sold it probably for more than I paid for it. But it's a very complex formula. That if you sit down with a pencil and paper, we can maybe figure it out someday in 5 years, because it's a long-term deal. We don't want to bore everybody with it. But I sold the shuttle. I got rid of a tremendous amount of debt. I got rid of a lot of personal guarantees. The Taj Mahal,
personal guarantees are unsecured loans from friends, or what?
No, personal guarantees meaning personal guarantees to banks, where I personally guarantee a piece of a loan. Basically, if you take the Atlantic City properties, I have up to 80% of the Taj Mahal. It's the thing's making a fortune. Now, I have
is it making a fortune? Stay with me and ask this question. Is it making a fortune, or is it generating a fortune in revenue, but it has a fortune plus in expenses?
No, it has a big fortune in expenses. I mean, it's run first class. It's a 4-star hotel.
Okay, but that's the point then. How much of this in the end is net cash flow?
Well, I'll give you an
is it simply that a lot of money is flowing in, but also out the other door is a lot of money going the other way?
I mean, I'll give you an example. We'll have probably $80 million in interest. I think the Taj could have a cash flow of maybe $30 to $40 million after debt.
Yeah.
That's some cash flow. Now, that's a great cash flow. Now, what do I do with it? I do with the West Side Yards, I do the Riverside South, I do other things. But the Taj Mahal's turned out very successfully. Trump Plaza, I own 100% of Trump Plaza. There's this misnomer that I sold, I this, I that. I sold very little. I mean, when you think of it, I sold
But why
very
would your friend Greenberg from Bear Stearns say he used to own 100% of assets that were worth nothing? Now he owns 50% of things that are making a lot of money.
Well, what happened in Atlantic City...
That's a difference.
Well, there is a difference. And I own 50% of the castle. Right. But when I say I own 50%, I'm also paying much less interest because I sold 50% to bondholders.
Right.
And in return for that, I got a reduction in debt, a reduction in this, and a reduction in interest. So it's making a lot more money. In Trump Plaza's case in Atlantic City, I own 100% of it. And that is turning out to be fantastic.
I take your word on all of this.
By the way, Charlie, I have to tell you, because of the fact, and a big difference is, and that's why you see in all the casino things, because of the fact that
they want to see you as a winner, because if you're a winner, it means that they're a winner.
Well, they don't want to see me as a winner, actually, because I have to tell you, when things started going bad, I was on the cover, but instead of my hands being up, I had my chin down, okay? So nobody wants to see me be a winner.
Let me just stay with that image for a second. Was it embarrassing for you? They say about you, they took his toys away. They took his yacht away. They took his...
Nobody took it away. I sold my yacht.
But I mean, did the banks put you on an allowance or not? No. I mean, help us understand how bad it got for you, and whether you were embarrassed, and whether you said, wow.
Well, when you say embarrassed, I didn't love waking up in the morning and walking out the street.
But help us understand that. I mean, you were a guy who was the big winner, and all of a sudden the paper's full of stories that saying, Trump in trouble. Trump, golden boy, no longer has Midas touch.
Right. I'll tell you what the hardest part is, and the hardest thing about life to understand. In baseball, if you get 15 runs in the first inning, and you don't get any more runs, you still have 15 runs at the end of the game.
Well, it depends on what the other guy does.
Well, no, but generally speaking, you're going to win that game, okay? It's as sad as it is to say, but you're going to win that game. You get 15 runs, it's pretty well over.
Ask the Atlanta Braves.
Okay, I mean, we've seen some examples, but anyway.
Well,
in life, I was 15-0 And then I had one very bad year. Now, I had a bad year. Maybe it was my fault because, hey, it was a lot of people's fault. It was also the government's fault. It was a lot of people's fault.
But you'll take some responsibility, though.
Absolutely.
You're
I
not
have
saying.
to, because I'd be a fool if I didn't. But I have to tell you, a lot of smart people
Right.
are in real deep trouble right now, and I'm not. And a lot of people, really smart people, are dead. They're gone. They're buried. They're over.
And
their
so,
history.
and one more time, why are they dead, buried, gone, history, and you are alive, well, and, as they say,
before I
wanna come back?
explain that, I just want to say that you have 15 great years, you have one bad year, and people judge you by your last thing. You're only as good as your last thing. You're only as good as your last article or what you've done lately. And that's it. I mean, you take a guy like Harry Helms. I mean, that man had 50 great years. Then, unfortunately, he married Leona. I mean, this was like a major mistake.
Here we go again.
He marries Leona. Yeah, poor Harry. I feel so sorry for you. Harry, get rid of her. Just leave her alone. Find a new woman if you can. But I'll tell you what, he marries Leona. So now, all of a sudden, he has a couple of bad years. To put it mildly, bad years. I mean, we're talking about major. They don't say the score is 50 to 2.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, they don't say the score is 50 to 2.
Yeah.
As far as they're concerned, Harry is like this major failure, and that's a shame, because that's not the way life should work. It should be 50 to 2. That's a pretty good record. Well, I had 15 great, then I had the one bad year, and 1.5 real bad years where I had a fight. I mean, it was a struggle. It was a survival. It was surviving at the top. I wrote the book. It was surviving at the top. And it wasn't easy, and it wasn't pleasant. And
Did you ever think you'd lose? Did you ever lose confidence? Did you ever say,
no,
I may not get out of this?
No.
Not once?
Not once. And the reason I didn't say it is because I had to go back and do it myself. You see, I built what I built myself. And I did it by working long hours and working hard and working smart. More importantly than anything else is by using my own brain. And there was a point where I was making so much, so fast, and it was so easy that I almost got bored. And it's true. And I write about this. I mean, I'm writing about this. It's really been an experience.
I should believe you here saying, in a way, this was good because it gave me a chance to test myself. The adversity was good. It put me back and made me leaner and hungry again because everything was at stake and therefore I had to pay attention.
Well, I think I'll look at it in the future as being good. And you know, when it was happening, I had no choice. I just had to do it, and I did it myself. And all of a sudden, I'll give you an example, Riverside South. I've had Riverside South for 5 years. I've had the land for 5 years. I went through a succession of executives that were in charge of Riverside South. A year and a half ago, I took it over myself. And as you say, I got a 12-0 vote, and you were told that I sort of did it myself. I did do it myself.
Read that you did, right.
Okay. I mean, you can't believe everything you read, but I did do it largely by myself with a group of people, but I really spearheaded something that's turned out to be, I think, going to be a great thing. I really went back to work, and I really did things myself. And I think that's why I survived, and I think maybe, who knows?
Let me point out a couple of other things here this time. You lost during this period 3 key executives.
Correct.
Who died in a helicopter
friends.
crash, and friends who were running, and then you went through some executives after that and finally put your lawyer in charge down there, right?
Who's done a great job.
You had a divorce that was, you were the, fair to say, people were laughing at you about this divorce. And we were amused in the tabloids. I was living in New York at the time, but we were amused by it. But at the same time, some people said, enough of this. I'm tired of reading
I would have
about
loved to
this
say
kind of
enough.
stuff.
I mean, I couldn't help it. It was
Yeah,
on
but
the
you were
front page
feeding
of-
the columnists, too.
I wasn't feeding. I mean,
You had no conversation with all these people?
You know, it wasn't a
Or
feed.
was it-
It wasn't a feed. It was a frenzy, I have to tell you. And I wasn't feeding anybody. They were feeding themselves. They were making up stories. I called up one of the top people in one of the New York tabloids, and I said, hey, look, this is ridiculous. This story didn't happen. Don't put it in. He said, I know it didn't happen, but Donald was selling papers like crazy. And they knew it before the story was written. They put it in anyway. And I think for 28 days in a row, I mean, you know, we talk about Woody Allen was a big story. This thing just swamped everything. Okay, this swamped everything. This was the biggest of the big. It was crazy. It was out of control. And I guess it had all the elements of a soap opera.
Did it bring any satisfaction to you that during this adversity you were able to get out of the marriage at a time perhaps you gave up a lot less money than you might have imagined you would do at another time? Now,
Well,
come on, tell me the truth.
I mean, there were those people that say that I did this purposely in order to get out of the
no, but there are
divorce.
those who said that you used that adversity as a time to say, you know, it may not ever get any better, so you better, you know, people were saying you better make your deal now.
Yeah. I was very happy to pay Ivana what I paid her. I mean, this was what I was supposed to pay her, and this is what I did pay her, because she, if anything happened a year ago where I went down the tubes, where I really would have ended up with nothing, she and the children would always have been taken care of, and that was very important to me. I mean, at the time, don't forget, I was being sued for $2 billion at one point.
By her?
By her.
Right.
And that was going to be a nasty, contentious suit, and frankly, had I not had a glitch, I would probably not be on this program right now. I'd be at divorce court.
If you hadn't had
Would
what?
be
Oh, if you hadn't been down
Had I
into
not
to the
been
if you
here-
hadn't bottomed out and put some pressure on her and her
Well, it
attorney.
wasn't a question of pressure. I mean, there was a point where she probably felt I wasn't going to make it. I mean, there was a point where a lot of people felt I wasn't going to make it except me.
You to promote this notion. I mean, look at this picture here. I mean, you like this.
Isn't he a handsome
You know,
guy?
you like this, don't you?
No, I don't
But
really-
is it good
I'm
for
not sure
you
I
to
like the
promote
picture.
that because it says Donald is back and all of this stuff about scrambles off the canvas, in a sense, is good for business,
It
so
is good
therefore
for
you're
business.
promoting that
You know what?
image.
It is
You
good
want
for
people to believe that you're back.
I mean, as an example, it's late in the evening right now. It's not that you're a fantastic guy, and we did this down in New Orleans, but in New Orleans it was during the afternoon. It was really much more pleasant. Right now it's late in the evening, and here we are doing an interview.
Yeah, right.
It
And
happens
a heck of an
to
interview
be-
it is.
I hope we're going to have a good time. I mean, I hope you get good ratings, too.
do,
I mean,
too.
anything for you, Joe.
Yeah, exactly.
But I'll tell you what, it happens
Poor
to
boy
be...
from the north. Yeah, go ahead.
That's right. It happens to be great for business. I mean, the fact that it's coming back. Now, it would be nice if it were the other way. If
Yeah.
you have problems, wouldn't it be nice
All
if
right,
everyone...
but apart from all that, come on, ego.
I have an ego.
Of course
I mean,
you do.
I've never met a successful person that
Nor
didn't
have
an
I.
ego. And,
Nor have I.
you know,
People
I
are driven
feel-
by it. I mean, Mother Teresa has an ego.
Absolutely.
You know,
Bigger than you would ever believe. all
Well,
right?
I've never had the pleasure. But nevertheless, I mean, part of it, you love the limelight. You love beyond the business and what it does and the whole sense of the Trump image. You like it. You like the fact that there's security guys coming ahead of you and sweeping behind you, and there's this adulation, and women want to be with you, and wherever you go, there are flashbulbs and all of this kind of thing. You like it.
I don't mind it. I don't mind it.
Oh,
And-
don't mind it or
No,
relish
I'll tell
it?
you what, I used to like it more. I still like it.
Yeah.
I probably would miss it if it weren't here.
Yeah, because
I
it might-
probably would. No,
yeah.
I probably would.
Because you've grown accustomed to it as part of your...
Maybe. I have gone, you know, it's been sort of wild. But I also think it's great for business. I mean, it is great for the casino business. It's great for the condominium business. It's great. Hey, they just came out with a report, the Corcoran report, that Trump apartments in New York sell for more on a square foot basis, which is really than any apartments in New York by far. It's not even close.
Let me
And a
talk-
lot of that is all of this nonsense.
Let me talk about people you ought to say sorry to, if there might be. One is, and I'm talking, I raised this person first, that guy in Philadelphia, you know, who they say you got fired. You remember the guy who did the stock
Well, I
analysis?
have to say so. He did great. I mean, he came out, he did well, and now he's
Yeah, but I
he's
mean,
my biggest champion.
Okay, but
I mean,
shouldn't
he's
you
the
s-
one. He
yeah, but
was
you
an
got him
analyst.
fired. You can't. You got to look back.
I can't
at
help that his firm fired him. If they
Yeah.
fired
Oh, now
him,
come on.
fired
Did
him.
they fire him because of a call from you?
I have no idea.
Okay.
Really, I have
But
no
don't you have
idea.
any regret for
Perhaps.
that? I mean, one man may have
No,
lost a
I'll
job
tell you what,
because
I'll
you
tell you what.
leaned on his...
Because he's a tough guy, he's a savvy guy, he's come out great, he's a stock analyst, and he's now my biggest champion. He's saying
now
it's the
saying what?
greatest comeback. In fact, he used the word brilliant. I hate to tell you this.
What's his name?
His name is Marvin Rothman.
Ross, that's right, he
and
did say
he
that.
was a great critic of me, and now he's saying that this was one of the most brilliant
So
things
you
that he's
did him
ever
a
seen.
favor by getting him fired?
Well, I think in the long run, I think he's probably doing better now
so
than he
you
was
did him
doing
a
then.
favor. That's the...
Indirectly, I did him. I wasn't looking to do him a favor, but I think indirectly.
But
I
don't
did
you
him.
regret that? I mean, you don't
No,
need to...
I don't
What,
regret
get this
it.
guy lose his job?
No, because that's life. You can't look back. I
Yeah.
don't like look back.
No
I mean,
regrets then? I mean, there's no one that you'd
hey,
say
regrets. If I had it to do again, would I have done things differently? Yes.
now... What would you have done differently?
I probably, instead of stopping with the sale of the St. Moritz, where I sold and I made a lot of money, I
Right.
probably would have sold some other things.
And that
I
would
think
have
I
been...
would have treated people differently. I think that, you know, some of the people that were most loyal to me are people that I didn't think would be. Some of the people that were least loyal to me are people that
you got
I
it.
think I would have treated them differently. I think I would have treated different groups differently. I would have wiped the floor with the guys that weren't loyal, which I will now do, which is great. You know, I love getting even with people, but I will. I would
Slow
have
up.
wiped.
You love getting even
Oh,
with it.
absolutely. You don't believe in the eye for the eye. You do.
No.
I know you well enough. I think you do. But anyway, but
Tell me, I mean, you're going to get even with some people. Because
yeah, I know. If
they-
given the opportunity, I will get even with some people that were disloyal to me. I mean, I had a group of people that were disloyal.
But how
and
do
I
you
found
define
out,
disloyalty?
they didn't come to my aid.
Well, what did they
didn't
do? They
small
turned their back
things.
on you?
No, but they didn't do small things that would have helped. They didn't do large
Give me
things.
one example.
Well, I had one man who frankly was on the board of a company that I was selling, and it was a tremendous sale for me. It was a great sale. Would have been a very helpful sale, and it ended up going through. But one of the things is that I had
This
to
was
take
Shuttle?
No, this was a different company. It doesn't matter which company, and it was a great thing for me. But one of the things is I had to clear the board. Now I only put him on that board because of the fact I thought I was doing him a favor. He got some money by being a board member, et cetera, et cetera. He contributed nothing. when it came time, I have 5 board members. When it came time to removing the slate and getting all my people, everyone said, I'm leaving.
Right.
Steve Ballenbach, Harvey Freeman, everyone left, except this one particular person said, I don't want to leave. He told my people, I don't want to leave. Well, when I heard about it, I went nuts, and I blasted him, and all of a sudden he left. But I consider that a great act of disloyalty. I put him on that board. Now, he did leave. I mean, he did leave. It's a little like Andrew. I mean, Andrew ended up in favor of Riverside South, but for all I had done, I had never asked him for anything. This is a great job. This is a job that he should have been in favor. He had to do a poll in order to find out whether or not he was going to support it.
But how can you get even with Andy Stein? I mean, this guy's...
It's not a question of getting even. I can certainly be disappointed in certain people, and I was very disappointed.
Yeah, but you've already said an eye for an eye. I mean, he hit you, you're going to hit him back.
Well, I might.
Yeah, but
We'll
how
see.
could you hit him back?
We'll see. Hey, time will tell, I guess, right?
Yeah, are you looking for the opportunity?
No, I'm not looking. I'm just really so disappointed in him. I'm disappointed in other people. And I was disappointed in this one man that didn't want to get off the board. Now, he got off.
Okay, but he got off. So, I mean,
no, he got off. He got off after being hit over the head with a cannon, okay?
What was the cannon?
The cannon was me. And he ended up...
What was the threat, though? I mean, did you blast him in the paper and that was enough? Or did you say...
The threat was just sort of just a strong threat. I mean, he would have gone through a lot of hell if he didn't get off. And then he gets off and he acts like he does me a favor. He gets off, okay? He got off maybe out of fear.
You owe me, Donald, because I'm getting off the board.
Yeah, and you know, it was like one of the great jokes of the century. But it ended up that he got off and the deal went through. But that doesn't mean I have to love this particular guy. It doesn't mean I have to love him. I want somebody that's loyal from the beginning, not somebody that's loyal because they're afraid or because they're this or because they're that. And I've had a lot of instances like that, and I think, you know, and again, I think the new book, and I don't know why I'm promoting a book that's not going to come out for 3 or 4 months. I mean, I don't want to waste a lot of time, but I think that the most interesting aspect, that's right, we'll do it when you go national.
That's
okay,
right,
we'll do that for the national, forget the local stuff. But
No, the local stuff's important. Without the local stuff, there's been no national
right,
stuff.
You don't do the second step.
Exactly.
But the truth is, I think the most interesting aspect of that book is the loyalty area, the loyalty chapters. I think it's really good.
You measure loyalty in terms of your own relationship with Roy Cohn. You feel like that you stuck by Roy Cohn, and you showed your stripes by doing that.
Well, I don't think I showed my stripes. I think, you see, I'm so loyal to people, and maybe I'm loyal to a fault, but I'm so loyal to people that when somebody's slightly disloyal to me, I look upon it as a great act of horror.
Who are you going to support for mayor?
Well, I think David Dinkins, I have to tell you, has done a real good comeback. You know, you talk about comebacks. David Dinkins has done one hell of a comeback in the last 6 months. And you saw what happened in Los Angeles, and you saw what happened. People really like the man. I mean, I've been with him, and I've watched him. And he has really become a very popular guy. And I think he's going to be very hard to beat in a lot of ways. Now, I have to tell you that a year and a half ago, nobody wanted to run against George Bush. It took a man from Arkansas who was the only one, you know, virtually one of the few people that wanted to run, because George Bush was unbeatable. There was no way you could beat this guy, and he turned out to, you know, he just ran out of gas.
It looked like David Dinkins couldn't possibly win re-election a year ago, and then you had lost a lot of other things, and now he's in a much better position. The polls say.
He really is. He's done a great comeback.
You support him over Giuliani?
Well, I'm not announcing who I'm supporting, and I don't think it's even relevant. I just think that Dinkins has really done a great job in terms of coming back, and I also think he's a great human being. I think he's a very
Did he help you on the Planning Commission?
He helped me, but he was tough. He was strong. He was very community-oriented. He was very much for the people in that sense. But when he gave me his word that he would now support the job, he really lived up to that word.
There was also a guy on the political scene this year named Ross Perot, a billionaire. Were you once a billionaire?
I don't know. I was projected as being
I know
a
you were,
billionaire
but you never can tell about
times.
those numbers.
I mean,
you mean you were worth a couple? Because I saw that at least 900 million. But did you actually have a net worth of $2 billion? I guess they had me up to the
highest of 2.
Well, what did you have yourself up to?
I don't know. I had myself up to maybe what I have right now. I don't know. Nobody knows what I'm worth. What's the Taj Mahal worth? What's the West Side? I have no idea what I'm worth.
What was it you used to say about the plaza? You said this is a trophy. Therefore, it's a different place if it's a trophy. If it's the best and unique, then people pay a premium for the best and unique.
But people don't buy trophies so much anymore.
Yeah, that's true.
In 1988, trophies were great. In 1990, you don't talk about
did you pay too much for that trophy? Probably.
No, I'll tell you what, when I bought the plaza, I was offered a huge profit a year after, and brilliantly I decided not to take that profit, okay?
Now, who sold it to you? Was it the Basses on that?
No, it was a consortium of people.
Were the Basses were involved?
And I have to tell you truthfully, I'm very happy with my purchase of the Plaza Hotel. I think it's working out fantastically. I think it's going to work out. You know, adversity is a very funny thing. When you have adversity, it's like in golf, it's like in sports. Everybody, it's a question of how many bad shots do you hit. not so many good shots, but how many bad shots.
In other words,
and
minimize your bad shots.
You really have to, it's not a question of getting, because everybody's going to get in trouble. It's a question of how do you get out of trouble.
Yeah,
I think the Plaza Hotel is going to turn out to be a great deal for me. I mean, it's already turning out to be a great deal for me, but I
golf,
think it's going to be great.
That sporting metaphor may be correct, because in golf, if you were playing and you got to go over the water to reach the green, sometimes you don't make it over the water.
Well, sometimes you don't.
And then it can
put
you into bogey land.
Sure, but hey, that's not where I am. Although I could have.
You're not in bogey land now? Well, but are you back to par? You're not even back to par, though. You're at least a bogey.
I think, again, I tell you this, and I make this prediction, I think in 6 months I'll be stronger than I was 3 or 4 years ago, whatever my...
That's a birdie, isn't it?
I believe what I did is I restructured things in the early 90s in the bad times, and now it's turning out to be very good. I believe that I'll be stronger than I was 2 years ago, but who knows? I mean, let's see what happens. Let's see what happens with the economy. Let's see what happens with the world.
Ross Perot had a $3 billion, was willing to spend it, and got something, I haven't seen the last tally, maybe 17, 18% of the vote, 19% of the vote. There was a time in which you wanted to tease America that you might want to run for president.
Well, people said that. I never did, but people said that.
You didn't go to New Hampshire to test the water? You didn't under the influence of Roger Stone say, you know, this is an interesting idea. Let's go up and see what we can do.
I really went to New Hampshire because they wanted me to go to New Hampshire, and they wanted me to make a speech.
But you knew that your appearance there would generate the talk.
I certainly did generate talk. And
but you knew that your appearance would generate talk.
No, I didn't do it for that reason. Charlie, I didn't do it for that reason, and I had no idea how much talk would be generated, and I had no intention of running for president, and I wouldn't have an intention of running for president. I will say this, Ross Perot, he made some monumental mistakes. Had he not dropped out of the election, had he not made the gaffes about, you know, the watchdogs and the guard dogs and everybody coming at the house, and, you know, 3 or 4, if he didn't have 3 or 4 bad days, and they were real bad days, he could have conceivably won this crazy election.
You'll get some political people who are smarter than you and I both about politics who will say the same thing.
Oh, I believe
that
it.
he could have made it a very competitive race
He was
and
up to
possibly
42
won.
points at one.
But at the same time, whatever it is that made him generate $2 billion, which enabled him to do as well as he did in part. He was very effective in the debates, and that had nothing to do with how much money he had. Right. At the same time, maybe, you know, you have to take the good with the bad, and part of the personality makeup that happened to make him $2 billion also made him the way he is about sort of the paranoia about
Well, the paranoia maybe created some of the money, but it's not necessarily good.
Or the drive that creates both.
See, one of the problems with politics and politicians is that you really can't have done very much wrong, and that means you can't have done very much, because if you're doing a lot, hey, I do a lot of things, and most of them turn out good, but some of them have to turn out bad, and it's, you know, they'll hit you with a little bad, and it makes it a little bit more difficult.
Franklin Roosevelt, I think, once said, Arthur Schlesinger was here the other night, and I'm not sure he said this, but I think that FDR once said, I'm proud of all my enemies, I've earned them. What enemies are you proud of?
Well, I'm proud of having a guy like Ed Koch as an enemy, because I think he's a major loser. He did a lousy job as mayor. He's a promoter. He's very much of a promoter. He did not do a good job as a mayor. He got very upset because after 8 years of trying to build the Woolman skating rink, I was able to do it in 4 months for about 1/10 the money that they spent. And instead of thanking me, he took great umbrage to the fact that I was able to do this. And I just wanted to have my kids go ice skating in Central Park. I got tired of watching these people sitting on their, I'm not allowed to say asses in this program, so of course I won't say it. But I got tired of watching these people just sitting down and not working and not doing it right and having no planning and no leadership. And no. So instead of thanking me and saying, Donald, that was a great job, he went around saying, well, I think we could have done it if we this, if we that. He was not.
So Ed Koch, who else?
I think he was just
what other enemy are you proud of?
I'm not proud of enemies. I'd like to have, you know, I'm the kind of guy that has great friends and great enemies, and somehow, but I'm not proud of
Is your father still the seminal influence in your life?
Well, I have a great father. I have a wonderful father. He's somebody I love very much. I wouldn't say he is. I'd say my mother and father maybe is a
together,
combination. Yeah, together, because I have just.
In what way did they influence you differently?
Well, they're very different people. My father's a very business-oriented guy, but a very good man. I mean, if somebody came up to my father on the street and said, I need $100, I need $200, and my father is the softest touch when it comes to people that really are in trouble. He's really a very great humanitarian in that sense. But he's a strong man. People would think of him as being cold, but he's not cold at all. My mother is openly warm. I mean, she's just a wonderful woman.
Except when it comes to Mike Tyson.
Except when it came to Mike Tyson. It took 40 years, and finally she came out and she said something. But she's a fabulous
She made you like yourself when you were growing up. I mean,
really
by her love reinforced your sense of self.
She really did. I mean, she's some woman.
Greenberg, again, in this New York Magazine article, said about you, he said, if Donald gives you his word, it's good as gold. However, he said,
And he said that sometimes I have a bad memory.
That leaves you wide open
No,
to,
it's
you know, it leaves you wide open to the fact that.
And I have a photographic memory.
Well,
That's the problem
exactly.
I have.
I mean, it
Okay, so I have
raises this question, can you trust what Donald really says? Because his memory may be short.
Yeah, now, I think he meant that jokingly. He's a great friend and he's a great gentleman, and I think he meant that I think, but perhaps he's had some bad experiences. I really don't know.
What brings you the greatest satisfaction now? Is it conquering adversity, or is it something else?
Well, I used to think just continued success, but I got bored by it.
Yeah, enough and enough is not enough.
Enough. And then I really think that right now I'm just really proud with the way I've handled things. I really think that I've handled things well from a business standpoint.
And somebody who steps forward and says, you know, this is just Donald's hype. He's a giant promoter. He hasn't come back. I mean, times have turned a little bit around. You know, he sold off some assets, but it's not the great comeback that he believes it is.
Well, all they have to do, I mean, all they have to do is look at the numbers. I mean, you look at the numbers in the casino journals,
right,
and you look at the numbers, and, you know, it's been a tremendous comeback. And I'm not saying I'm as far back as I will be in 6 months. I mean, I'm back, and I'm not in any trouble, and I'm doing well, and I'm making money.
What do you think?
Money is a scorecard for me. You know, money is not as important as people would think it would be to a guy like me, but it is a scorecard, and, you know, I've really
So
done
what
well.
is the most important thing to a guy like you?
I think the way I've survived, the quality in which I've lived under the survival mode, the image I've portrayed during the survival period. I mean, people haven't seen me go into a corner and put my thumb in my mouth and say, I give up, I give up. I mean, this kid doesn't give up. And some people did give up, I have to tell you, Charlie. And you know, you're not going to be doing interviews with them. But some people did give up. Many people gave up, and many tough, smart killers gave up. They just gave up. They said, I can't do it anymore. So I think the way in which I survived was very important to me.
Art of the Comeback, soon to be out. And we're going to be out next beginning of
3 or 4 months.
3 or 4 months.
Yeah.
You're writing this alone?
I'm doing this one alone because I really want to get my flavor. I've had 2 wonderful writers. My other books were both #1 bestsellers. I'm doing this alone. I want to get my own flavor. It's really become somewhat of a passion because I think people are going to learn a lot from it.
It's good to have you.
Have a good time.
Thanks
Thank
very
you.
much.
Thank you.
Donald Trump is back.
Well, in Rich Dad Poor Dad, I came out in 1997 and I said, your house is not an asset. And it drove people nuts. It just went crazy on me because that's a common belief. But when you can't make your house payments, you find out is the biggest liability you got in many of the times.
It's turned out to be very much more correct than you even thought.
Right.
When you look at what's happened to home prices.
Right. And Donald and I love real estate. I love real estate. I think it's the best thing going, better than sliced bread. But if you're not smart with it, it's like a loaded gun. You know, you can protect yourself or you can kill yourself with it. So real estate is, to me, the best vehicle, but you've got to be smart with it because we're using debt. And debt is the two-edged sword out there. So you use debt, I use debt, but the more debt you use, actually you have to be smarter. So you can use debt to get richer. You can also use debt to wipe you out. So that's why, you know, I continue on saying we need financial education. To just say to somebody, get out of debt, well, that's not accurate. You use debt, don't you?
Debt is a great thing, and to be big and to be very successful, debt is a very useful weapon. But you have to be very careful.
That's correct. So the other thing with when people say live below your means, you don't like to live below your means, do you?
No.
No. And I think when you say to somebody live below your means, you wipe their spirit out. It's like saying to somebody, if you want to lose weight, go on a starvation diet. It doesn't make you healthier to starve yourself. So I would rather get financially educated. That's why I read your books, because I want to, this is my greatest asset. I want to feed my brain so that I can expand my means without getting into excessive debt or where I start to lose. Because debt, like I say, is a two-edged sword. But telling somebody to live below your means is almost inhumane. I never felt good doing it. I wanted to strive to do better every day. I want to do better every day. I liked a good life. Like I tell the story of taxiing underneath your jet. You know, I was in my jet, but it was a little Learjet. And I look up and there's a 727, and I taxi under it. I said, "Holy mackerel!" You know, it's big boys and their toys, but nonetheless it inspired me. I said, okay, I'm in a Learjet now, it's time to step up. And it doesn't mean the jet will make me happier. What makes me happier is the wanting to get better, to get smarter, to do better.
Well, I have a friend who was not successful at all, but was really up and coming. And he had a thing. He would only fly first class. I'm not saying do this because for somebody it won't work, but he needed that mentally.
Right.
He wanted to fly first class because mentally he wanted to think he was the best, and that's it. And even though he didn't have much money at the time, this is years ago, he would always fly. I used to criticize him, but it put him in a good state of mind, and he became a very, very successful guy. Very, very successful. And I've always remembered that. He would never fly coach. He would always fly first class, even though he didn't have the means to fly. So, look, it's complicated, but whatever it takes to train that.
Whatever makes you feel better about yourself, stronger, more confident, to want to do better. And I think really that's the issue. And we're at the stage of our lives right now, to ask for more is not really it, but to do better, to feel better about ourselves is still important. It is very important.
Right.
So that's why I don't like saying live below your means and scrimp and all that, because shopping is fun. Nice houses are fun.
At the same time, you have to be very careful.
Yes, but you have to be responsible about it.
Correct.
Like, when you invited us up to your little duplex up here, whatever they call it, we walked up there, and I've never seen a two-story, entire floor home in New York City. And my wife Kim says, she says, I never really want to live in a condo, but she says, Mr. Trump's house will do. And it is spectacular. You know what I mean? And it's.
And yet I don't need that, right?
Yes, I know.
I don't need that. If I had one nice bedroom with a good television set and a nice bed, and you don't really need that. But it was in a building I built, and it was there for the taking, so I figured I might as well do it. And what have I done? Instead of selling the equivalent of 12 or 13 units, I kept them. And by keeping them, I have them. I didn't sell them, and that's okay. And it's become, a very valuable place. So I didn't need that. I don't need it now, but there's something nice about it.
Right. And then that's my message is achieve it, and then you can take it or leave it. But if you don't achieve it, then it's always something away from you. So again, that's why I'd be redundant about this, living below your means. I don't think that makes your spirit happy. It kills your spirit. Also, if you don't have the financial education, when somebody says your house is an asset or these mutual funds are good or the stock will go up, and you don't know the difference between a good investment and a bad investment, because real estate can be a bad investment, stocks can be a bad investment. If you don't know good investment advice from bad investment advice, then you're going to get taken. This world is not kind, should we say.
The hardest thing that I've witnessed over the last year is seeing people that were very hardworking and very conservative that invested in the stocks. And I'm not talking about high-flying stocks. I'm talking about very solid companies. And their net worth is 50% of what it was a year ago, and they haven't done anything wrong.
Right.
Now, they put their money in stocks, so I guess you could say that's wrong, but it's really not wrong.
No.
Because historically, that's been okay. So they went into conservative stocks, and a year later, they're worth 50%, and all they've done is worked. And that's the hardest thing I've seen.
It's tragedy. The thing that I want to say is this. You can invest in gold and lose money. You can invest in real estate and lose money. You can lose stocks and lose money. You can invest in oil and lose money. You can also make a lot of money in all those things. So really the reason we get together is because your financial intelligence, your financial IQ makes something valuable or not valuable. Like I said, you have to know a good investment from a bad investment, good advice from bad advice.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. You're very kind. Thank you. Thank you. Please take your seats. Please take your seats. Thank you. Thank you very much.
In the world of business, it's another thing my rich dad pointed out to me. In the world of business, there are 4 types of people, and E stands for employee, S stands for small business or specialist, B stands for big business like Bill Gates, and I stands for investor. Our school systems do a pretty good job of educating us for here. So my poor dad always said to me, son, you go to school so you can get a job. So that's an employee's mentality. Good benefits, 401k, retirement plan, blah, blah, blah. My mother, on the other hand, and I used to argue with my dad, I don't really want a job. And my mother would say, don't argue with your dad. I said, I don't want a job. I want to be independent. She says, why? I said, Mom, I want to be rich. My mother was a registered nurse. So she said to me, she said, son, the richest people I know are doctors. I said, yeah. So you should go to medical school and become a doctor, a specialist. S stands for smart people, all this stuff. I said, Mom, there's only one problem. She says, what's that? Doctors are smart. She says, you have a good point there. You shouldn't do that.
You could be anywhere doing a lot of different things, but you chose to be here.
Some shows don't need a celebrity narrator to introduce the show, but this show does. In a world filled with endless opportunities, why would two men who have built 13 multi-million-dollar businesses altruistically invest 5 hours per day to teach you the best practice business systems and moves that you can use? Because they believe in you, and they have a lot of time on their hands. They started from the bottom. Now they're here. It's the Thrivetime show starring the former U.S. Small Business Administration's Entrepreneur of the Year, Clay Clark, and the entrepreneur trapped inside an optometrist's body, Dr. Robert Zillner. 2 men, 8 kids, co-created by 2 different women, 13 multi-million-dollar businesses.
We started from the bottom, now we're here. We started from the bottom and we'll show you how to get here. Started from the bottom, now we're here. We started from the bottom, now we're here.
Mr. Clyde started from the bottom and now we're at the top, teaching you the systems to get what we got. Colton Dixon's on the hooks, I break down the books. C's bringing some wisdom and the good looks. As the father of 5, that's why I'm alive. So if you see my wife and kids, please tell them hi. It's the CNC up on your radio. And now 3, 2, 1, here we go.
We started from the bottom, now we're here. We started from the bottom and we'll show you how to get here. Started from the bottom, now we're here. We started from the bottom, now we're here. We started from the bottom, now we're here.
Yes, 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 and yes. Aaron Antis, you now run Oklahoma's largest home building company, one of the largest home building companies in Oklahoma.
Yes, sir.
I'm now an entrepreneur with multiple different businesses, and both of us, we both read this little book called Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Oh, yeah.
20 some odd years ago, and it changed our lives. You were in Michigan.
I was living in my mom's basement in Michigan, completely buried in debt, had no sight of how to get out, no college education, flunked out of college.
And I was at an Oral Roberts University dorm room, had no idea how to achieve success. And I read this thing called the Cashflow quadrant. It said we have to become a great employee, and then we have to become self-employed. And then after that, we get to become a business owner, and then we get to become an investor. So here we are, both of us are investors, and we get to interview the man, the myth, the legend who created the cash flow quadrant. Woo! Robert Kiyosaki, welcome on to the Thrivetime show. How are you, sir?
Boy, you guys are already pumped up. I would move to Oklahoma. Anyway, thank you for the kind words. At my old age, to have young people like you saying the book changed their lives is probably the biggest spiritual juice I get. It's because
brother, it changed my life. Changed my life. I probably purchased conservatively 1,000 copies of your book, given it to folks. And so I wanted to tap into your wisdom on part 1 about the cash flow quadrant, because we have a lot of people listening to this show that will become the future generation of entrepreneurs if we can save capitalism in America. Sir, can you walk us through the cash flow quadrant? And I think it's embroidered on the chair behind you.
Sure, it's right there.
There it is.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
But this is my etching of it. And E stands for employee. S stands for self-employed, small business, or a specialist like a doctor or a lawyer. It also stands for smart person. And then B stands for big business, according to the Internal Revenue Service, is 500 employees or more. But B also stands for brand, like McDonald's is a brand. And brands are very, very valuable assets. And then I stands for investor, but it's actually an inside investor. And so when I was a kid, 10 years old, studying with my rich dad, he would walk me through this and be talking about your mindset. So on this side is my poor dad, go to school, get a job. He was a PhD in education. This is my mom. She wanted me to become a doctor or a lawyer. And I said to my mom, the only problem with that, Mom, is you have to be smart. She says, you're right. I guess you're not going to be a doctor or a lawyer, because I really didn't like school, And then, so my rich dad was over here, and he was building a massive, massive business throughout Hawaii. So when you go to Hawaii today, if you look at Waikiki Beach, you'll see the Hyatt Regency Hotel. Rich Dad, as an inside investor, assembled all that property, and then another investor took it off his hands and built a Hyatt on it. So I watched both my poor dad and my rich dad. I watched my rich dad get richer and richer and richer, but my poor dad get poorer and poorer and poorer.
Now, I wanted to ask you this, Robert. For somebody out there listening right now, if they're an employee, okay, and let's just, because I'm going back to my 18-year-old mind. I was working at Target, Applebee's, and DirecTV. I was doing a poor job at Target, a poor job at Applebee's, and a poor job at DirecTV. And I read your book, and I'm going, I have to do a good job because I need to be able to get ahead, to become self-employed. What would you say to somebody who's kind of stuck in that rut of they're always late, never getting things done? They're the perpetuating cycle of fail employee right there. What would you say to that employee right there that's kind of stuck in that rut right now?
Yeah, but it goes deeper than that, Clay. The numbers here stand for taxes. So this is worldwide. They're pretty much worldwide. Employees pay about 40% of their income in taxes. The small business entrepreneur pays 60%. Now, when Biden wants to hire 87,000 IRS agents, he's going after this guy here.
Yeah.
These guys are already screwed. I mean, they take their taxes out before you get paid.
Yeah.
But these guys here, the IRS has to go after them. So the small business guy is going to get screwed by Biden. I mean, I hope I'm not Republican or Democrat. Trump is my friend. But these are the guys are going to go after. So what happens to a young person? They say, I'm going to quit my job and start a business. Well, you move into a higher tax bracket. If you understand that thing, okay. And on this side, because you have employees, lots of employees, I only pay 20%. But as an insider, I can pay 0% legally. I don't want to go to jail and become somebody's boyfriend. Whoa. So I want to be an insider all the time. So that's my way of saying I don't own stocks, bonds, mutual funds, ETFs. I don't touch anything the stock market pumps out. I don't trust the dollar. I don't trust the treasury, and I definitely don't trust government. So that's kind of why this is so important today, especially today. And with 87,000 IRS agents coming out, you'd better get a great CPA, a tax guy. Okay, that's the big difference.
I understand what you mean, but there's people listening right now who have an SUV with a massive payment. They have a college degree with no actual practical skills, and they have a lot of degrees, more degrees than a thermometer, but they have no practical skills. Could you clarify what you mean when you often say, I'm pro-education, I'm just anti-system?
Well, it goes back again to the question I always ask is, what does school teach you about money? And for most people, it's nothing. The next question is, do you think that's a mistake? I mean, do you think that's a mistake, or is it intentional? So that's why, I talk about my book, Capitalist Manifesto, this book here. And this is the book I wrote this year. And it's in response to the Communist Manifesto. But listen to this, okay, is we were warned. I'll say it again. In the Communist Manifesto by Marx, he said communism would come in two stages. Stage one was 1930, when Columbia University was taken over by communists and still is communist today. Dennis Prager, he calls Columbia one of the worst places you can go to. And then, so in this book here, Capitalist Manifesto, it says, we were warned. He says, this is from Nikita Khrushchev, 1959. He says, your children's children will live under communism. You Americans are so gullible. No, you won't accept communism outright, but we will keep feeding you small doses of socialism. And that's through our schools until you finally wake up and find you already have communism.
Right.
We will not have to fight you. We will so weaken your economy until you fall like overripe fruit into our hands. Nikita Khrushchev, 1959. This book is nothing but quotes from Stalin, from Marx, from all these guys. But the problem is most academics, like my poor dad, never read the Communist Manifesto. So they do not know they're communists.
So good.
Aaron,
I had a question about, you had a quote where you said that, you really all you need for success, and I'm paraphrasing, but really all you need for success is simple math skills and some common sense.
There we go.
And so, when my wife and I actually taking that last quote you just used, my wife and I basically homeschooled our kids. And we did that so that they wouldn't get indoctrinated, because they're not public schools, they're government schools. And so we wanted to make sure they learned a love for learning so that they would continue to educate themselves after the fact, because we're very pro education. And so we've created children that are like that. But what happens is, people start studying certain things. And when you go down a certain path of study, you get more and more and more specialized, which makes it harder and harder to turn into a B or an I, in my opinion. So what are the things, you said common sense, which isn't that common, and simple math skills, you can be successful. What are the things that, you would spend time on studying and learning? Because obviously you're a lifelong learner as well. Where would you go to get the learning that you need to be successful, if you're our listeners out there?
Well, that's a great question. Again, let's go back to book number 2, The Quadrant. Yeah. You're talking about the specialists. So what academics do, you go to, you become a doctor, you're a general practitioner, then you specialize. You're an orthopedic surgeon, hearts, you just keep being more specialized. But you get trapped in here and you pay the highest taxes. You can't get out. Yeah. So when I talk to parents, and I don't have kids, so I really have not qualified to talk to them, I said, the difference is your child a golfer or a football player? And you see, the thing that we're taught in the Marine Corps is Marines fight as teams. When I flew in, we flew in with flights of, the gunships were 4 gunships. We always fought as a team. And when I talk to people who are golfers, they want to do it by themselves. There's nothing right or wrong about it.
Yep.
But a golfer is here. Yeah. And a team player is out here. So I'm not the smartest guy, but I hire very smart specialists. I employ these guys. My tax guy, he wrote the book Tax Free Wealth. He's Tom Wheelwright. I don't pay taxes, and I don't want to become an accountant. I just call Tom up, and that's he's a specialist here.
He's the golfer.
He's actually a triathlete, which is even more nuts. But anyway, yeah. But he's a great team player. And so in school, being a team player means you're cheating. I was very cooperative in school. C stands for capitalist, cooperative, all that stuff. But in school, they want you to take the test on your own.
Yeah.
So this is my. I asked my accountant to write this book. It's called Tax Free Wealth. Yeah. Because as I said, 87,500 IRS agents are coming after this guy here.
Right.
And then why are they going to pick on this guy? Because they can't afford to fight the government.
Let's talk about your gold mine for a second, and just gold in general. Okay. And I'm not making this a shameless pitch for your company, because I frankly haven't researched it enough to be able to speak positively or not positively about it. All I can say is that I've looked into your career and I've benefited greatly from what you've taught me. But years ago, Robert, I met with a gentleman who owned a bank. He owns a bank. And I sat down with him and I said, I'm doing well. I'm 25, 26 years old. I'm making good money now with my entertainment company. What should I do with my money? And this is the owner of a bank. He said, step 1, do not put your money in a bank. And I'm going, what? You own a bank? He said, I only own a bank because it allows me to borrow money borrow money from the Federal Reserve. And he said, Clay, the Federal Reserve is not federal. There is no reserve. So I can borrow money from the Federal Reserve that they don't have, and I can lend it to people like you at a profit. But he said, you need to take a quarter of your cash and buy gold and silver, a quarter of your cash and buy land or property from emotional people that need to sell it. He says, look for people getting a divorce. When you see the clothes burning in the lawn and someone's yelling at their husband, get out of here. That's when you make an offer. He said, so buy real estate from emotional people with a quarter of your cash, buy gold and silver, and then take your other half, keep it cash on hand for your next business plan. And I thought, oh, wow. So I read The Creature from Jekyll Island. I started researching the Federal Reserve, and I started going, oh, wow. So I have just been buying gold and silver consistently since that time. And I've seen the value of what I've purchased has tripled. And I've been buying real estate from emotional people who need to sell it. What would you tell people out there? What should people be doing with, let's say they have $500,000 of cash in the bank account? What sort of things or what mindset should people have with managing their cash?
Well, first of all, I don't give financial advice because I'm not registered to do that, and you shouldn't listen to me anyway. But I just tell you what I do. I don't trust anything that can be printed. So if you can print it, I don't want it. So that's why I say I own oil in the ground. I don't own Exxon or BP or Shell. I own cattle because you can't print cattle. I own real estate, which I use debt for, because that's what happened in 71. The dollar came off the gold standard and dollar became debt. But I gave a guy like Dave Ramsey, who says live debt free. That's good advice for 95% of the people.
Right.
But if you want to use debt, you've got to study. And most people, as you know, are too lazy. They're not going to study. So that's why, I created my cash flow board game and all this stuff. Excuse me, you got to have a financial statement. My bankers never asked me for my report card. My bankers asked me for my financial statements.
Right.
And the average person has no idea what a financial statement is because they went to school, they're PhDs like my poor dad. The school teachers are coming out of Columbia University, which Dennis Prager says is one of the worst schools in America. But meanwhile, I just kind of stay off the beaten path and I invest in what the Fed and the government cannot print. It's that simple. So I like Wagyu cattle, not because I'm a cattle guy, but I sell the semen. And, that's sperm flow, cash flow. If the Fed could print semen, I'd be out of that business. So I only invest what they cannot print. And that's my personal strategy. Everybody should find their own strategy. I also use debt. So let's say I have an apartment house and I buy it for, let's say, 20 million. I fix it, it goes to 40 million. Most people would flip it, I got 20 and went to 40 million. Well, if you flip it, you have a tax. It's called capital gains. So what I do is I borrow out the equity. So it's like a refi. So I get a $40 million property, went from 20 to 40. And let's say I borrow 10 million out. All that debt is tax-free.
Right.
And the property pays for the debt, not me. And then I reinvest in other properties. I buy more breeding bulls. I always wanted to be a Japanese breeding bull, but I never made it. So anyway, I own the bull and I sell the semen and I get a percentage off the calf.
Wow. Now, Robert, I'm going to pull up a final thing I wanted to do here. And this is, you have a lot of people in our culture today that are passive aggressive. And then there's people like myself who are just aggressive. We have these things called the Reawaken America Tour, where your friend Kash Patel, General Flynn, Eric Trump, Mike Lindell, many great entrepreneurs are at these events. And I'm open invitation to you. We're doing these all across the country. And what we're doing is we're sharing with people the truth about what's happening. And you have my promise, I will not kick you off the stage and I will not ever kick you off of the event like off the lineup like Freedom Fest did to you. So if you want to join Kash, I'm telling you, we're going to Pennsylvania here. Every one of the event has what, Aaron, 4,000 to 5,000 people. It all sold out.
Yeah, up to 10,000.
And we stream to millions of people. Each one, the biggest stream we've ever had was 7.1 million people streamed the Tulsa event. And the average one has about 2 million people streaming, 102 streaming partners. So open invitation. If you want to join us, we'd love to have you. You can think about it, but I just want to tell you, you're open. You're invited to come to any of our events. No censorship, no editing, no teleprompters. And I know Cash is joining us in Pennsylvania. So it's my open, aggressive invitation. You are invited to come join us on the Reawaken America tour, should you feel the need, sir.
Well, if Cash is there, I mean, I only met him for about a couple of days. The man's a stud. I mean, I was going.
And Cash told me, and we talked. Awesome. I just talked to Cash today. I just talked to Cash, and I told him what I'm plotting, what I'm planning. I'm telling him, and I really do believe. So I prayed about it. I've thought about it. I've talked to Aaron about it behind the scenes. And again, each one of these events, your people will be there. We'll buy everything you could possibly sell us and more. And we would love to have you. So again, open invitation. I can talk to your team if you want to join us. We're going to Pennsylvania in October. It's almost sold out. We'd love to have you, sir.
I'd be honored. You know, as the Marines would say, Semper Fi.
Semper Fi.
Okay. Well, I'll reach out to your team to see if we can make it happen. And again, thank you.
Her name is Sarah. She runs my life. And because I'm getting worse than Biden. You know, I have no memory anymore. But, so sometimes I double book things, and she kind of keeps me straight.
Yeah, we all need one of those.
Well, sir, I'm going to give you the floor here. Final 60 seconds. People take notes. I know they're going to go to richdad.com right now. I know they're going to be purchasing a copy of Capitalist Manifesto. I know our listeners, our readers and note takers are going to buy Capitalist Manifesto. I know they're going.
If somebody out there still doesn't own Rich Dad, Poor Dad, what are you doing? Go buy
the book.
Come on. We just told you how much it changed our lives.
Sir, we'll give you the final word. What would you say to all the listeners out there?
Well, the most important asset you have lies between your left ear and your right ear. You know, it's your brain or your mind, whatever you want to call it. But you've got to be very careful who puts information in there. You know, is the person going to, you know, if it's like my poor dad, I wouldn't listen to him. And if the person is an entrepreneur and all this, because I wanted to be an entrepreneur, I'll listen to him. The same as when I was getting ready to go to Vietnam, you know, my teachers were real Marine pilots. You know, they actually came back from combat. And so I was preparing in Camp Pendleton to go to Vietnam, and I chose the instructor very carefully. I wanted to know who the best instructor was, the best Marine gunship pilot. And that guy, I said, just trained the heck out of me. So the most important thing is choose your teachers wisely.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Very much choose your teachers wisely. There is nothing more important than this, what's between this ear and that ear. And be careful who your friends are. You know, there's people out there who are Judases.
Yeah.
Who will screw you. And
we know
that happens a lot, unfortunately.
Robert, this was better than I possibly could have expected, sir. And I'll tell you, the only thing that was unexpected for me, I knew it would be good, is your glasses are much more incredible than I thought they would be. You've got some great glasses there, sir.
You have good glasses.
I have at my age, I got to do anything.
All right. Hey, thank you, brother. We'll be talking to you soon. Okay.
Thank you. I'll be honored. I'm honored to be on your program. So thanks, Cash. Thanks to the Cash also.
All right. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Inflation.
Inflation.
When demand is greater than supply, either you get shortages or you get price increases. And actually what we had was a mixture of both.
We are in an inflationary spiral.
66% of people polled expect inflation to get worse.
The value of the dollar since I was born has declined by 94% to 6 cents.
We are about to face one of the greatest periods of uncertainty in American history. Organize your finances, expand your knowledge, your insight as to what it is that you have, and then start making decisions.
When people go to bh-pm.com, they can schedule a free consultation. You're talking about going from the intangible into the tangible.
If you can't hold it in your hand, then it's not yours. You don't own it. You can physically hold actual gold and silver. It ships fully insured directly to your home.
Inflation rates are going to continue to rise. Don't wait. Don't keep putting off decisions that you know you must make.
My name is Kevin Thomas, and the name of our company is MultiClean. We are a commercial janitorial service, and we serve the entire state of Oklahoma and Kansas, and soon to be Arkansas. We have probably grown 5 times We've added, I think when we first started with you, we had 60 to 65 employees. And now we have a little over 300 employees. Before we got involved with Thrivetime, we didn't really have any systems or processes in place. So I've probably been to, in 6-7 years, I've probably been to 12 to 13 business conferences. And amazingly, each time I go, I learn something new, and I'm so excited to bring it back and show the team about marketing and how to implement, how to help you guys implement the SEO. And the coaching is just great because there's accountability, and it's just a fantastic way to grow your company. Having a relationship with Thrivetime it's just been amazing for MultiClean. Oh my goodness, it frees me up because then I don't have to take a class on search engine optimization or learn marketing or shoot video. That's not what we do. What we do is commercial janitorial service. And you guys are the experts on marketing, and you teach me and hold my hand and show me how to do it right. And therefore, now my company is much, much larger.
Clay Clark is here somewhere. Where's my buddy Clay? Clay's the greatest. I met his goats today. I met his dogs. I met his chickens. I saw his compound. He's like the greatest guy.
I ran from his goats, his chickens, his dogs.
So this guy's like the greatest marketer you've ever seen, right? His entire life, Clay Clark, his entire life is marketing.
Okay, Aaron Antis, March 6th and 7th. March 6th and 7th, guess who's coming to Tulsa, Jerusalem?
Ooh, Santa Claus?
No, that's March. March 6th and 7th, we're going to be joined by Robert Kiyosaki.
Robert Kiyosaki.
Best-selling author of Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Probably the best-selling, or one of the best-selling business authors of all time. And he's going to be joined with Eric Trump. He'll be joined by Eric Trump. So we got Eric Trump and Robert Kiyosaki in the same place.
In the same place.
Aaron, why should everybody show up to hear Robert Kiyosaki?
Well, you got billions of dollars of business experience between those two, not to mention many, many, many millions of books have been sold. Many, many millionaires have been made from the books that have been sold by Robert Kiyosaki. I happen to be one of them. I learned from the man. He was the inspiration. That book was the inspiration for me to get the entrepreneurial spirit, as many other people.
Now, since you won't brag on yourself, I will. You've sold billions of dollars of houses, am I correct?
That is true.
And the book that kickstarted it all for you,
Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Rich Dad, Poor Dad, the author, the best-selling author of Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Robert Kiyosaki, the guy that kickstarted your career.
Yeah.
He's going to be here.
He's going to be here. I'm pumped.
And now Eric Trump, people don't know this, but the Trump organization has thousands of employees. There's not 50 employees. The Trump organization, again, most people don't know this, but the Trump organization has thousands of employees. And while Donald J. Trump was the 45th president of these United States and soon to be the 47th president of these United States, he needed someone to run the companies for him. And so the man that runs the Trump organization for Donald J. Trump, as he was the 45th president of the United States and now the 47th president of the United States, is Eric Trump. And so Eric Trump is here to talk about time management, promoting from within, marketing, branding, quality control, sales systems, workflow design, workflow mapping, how to build. I mean, everything that you see, the Trump hotels, the Trump golf courses, all their products, the man who manages billions of dollars of real estate and thousands of employees is here to teach us how to do it.
You are talking about one of the greatest brands on the planet from a business standpoint. Right. I mean, who else has been able to create a brand like the Trump brand? I mean, look at it. And this is the man behind the business for the last, pretty much since 2015. He's been the man behind it. So you're talking, we're into 9 going into 10 years of him running it, and we get to tap into that knowledge. That's going to be amazing.
Now, think about this for a second. Would you buy a ticket just to see Robert Kiyosaki and Eric Trump? Of course you would.
Of course you would.
But we're also going to be joined by Sean Baker. This is the best-selling author, the guy who invented the carnivore diet.
Oh, yeah.
Dr. Sean Baker. He's been on Joe Rogan multiple times. He's going to be joining us. So you've got Robert Kiyosaki, the best-selling author of Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Eric Trump, Sean Baker. The lineup continues to grow, and this is how we do our tickets here at the Thrivetime Show. If you want to get a VIP ticket, you can absolutely do it. It's $500 for a VIP ticket. We've always done it that way. Now, if you want to take a general admission ticket, it's $250 or whatever price you want to pay. And the reason why I do that, and the reason why we do that is because we want to make our events affordable for everybody. I grew up without money. I totally understand what it's like to be in a tight spot. So if you want to attend, it's $250 or whatever price you want to pay. That's how I do it. And it's $500 for a VIP ticket. Now, we only have limited seating here. With the most people we've ever had in this building was for the Jim Brewer presentation. Jim Brewer came here, the legendary comedian Jim Brewer came to Tulsa, and we had 419 people that were here. 419 people.
Yeah.
And I thought to myself, there's no more room. I felt kind of bad that a couple people had VIP seats in the men's restroom. Oh, no, I'm just kidding. But I thought, you know what, we should probably add on. So we're adding on what we call the upper deck, or the top shelf. So the seats are very close to the presenters, but we're actually building right now. We're adding on to the facility to make room to accommodate about another 30 attendees or more. So again, if you want to get tickets for this event, all you have to do is go to thrivetimeshow.com. Go to thrivetimeshow.com. When you go to thrivetimeshow.com, you'll go there, you'll request a ticket, boom. Or if you want to text me, if you want a little bit faster service, you say, I want you to call me right now. Just text my number. It's my cell phone number, my personal cell phone number. We'll keep that private between you, me, everybody. We'll keep that private. In anybody. Don't share that with anybody except for everybody. That's my private cell phone number. It's 918-851-0102. 918-851-0102. I know we have a lot of Spanish-speaking people that attend these conferences, and to be bilingually sensitive, my cell phone number is 918-851-0102.
That is not actually bilingual. That's just saying Juan for a one. It's not the same thing.
I think you're attacking me. Now, let's talk about this. Now, what kind of stuff will you learn at the Thrive Time Show workshop? So, Aaron, you've been to many of these over the past 7-8 years. So let's talk about it. I'll tee up the thing, and then you tell me what you're going to learn here, okay?
Okay. Yeah.
You're going to learn marketing and branding. What are we going to learn about marketing and branding?
Oh, yeah. We're going to dive into, so many people say, I got to get my brand known out there, like the Trump brand, right? You want to get that brand out there. It's like, how do I actually make people know what my business is and make it a household name? You're going to learn some intricacies of how you can do that.
You're going to learn sales. So many people struggle to sell something. This just in, your business will go to hell if you can't sell. So we're going to teach you sales. We're going to teach you search engine optimization, how to come up top in the search engine results. We're going to teach you how to manage people. Aaron, you have managed, no exaggeration, hundreds of people throughout your career and thousands of contractors. And most people struggle with managing people. Why does everybody have to learn how to manage people?
Well, because first of all, you either have great people or you have people who suck. And so it can be a challenge. Learning how to work with a large group of people and get everybody pulling in the same direction can be a challenge. But if you have the right systems, you have the right processes, and you're really good at selecting great ones, and we have a process we teach about how to find great people. When you start with the people who have a great attitude, they're teachable, they're driven, all of those things, then you can get those people all pulling in the same direction.
So we're going to teach you branding, marketing, sales, search engine optimization. We're going to teach you accounting. We're going to teach you personal finance, how to manage your finance. We're going to teach you time management. How do you manage your time? How do you get more done during a typical day? How do you build an organization if you're not organized? How do you do organization? How do you build an org chart? Everything that you need to know to start and grow a business will be taught during this 2-day interactive business workshop. Now, let me tell you how the format is set up here. And again, folks, this is a 2-day interactive 15. Think about this, folks. It's 2 days. Each day it starts at 7 a.m. and it goes until 5 p.m. So from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m., 2 days. It's a 2-day interactive workshop. The way we do it is we do a 30-minute teaching session, and then we break for 15 minutes for a question and answer session. So, Aaron, what kind of great stuff happens during that 15-minute question and answer session after every teaching session?
I actually think it's the best part about the workshops, because here's what happens. I've been to lots of these things over the years. I've paid many thousands of dollars to go to them. And you go in there and they talk in vague generalities, and they're constantly upselling you for something, trying to get you to buy this thing or that thing or this program or this membership. And you leave not getting your very specific questions answered about your business or your employees or what you're doing on your marketing. And what's awesome about this is we literally answer every single question that any person asks, and it's very specific to what your business is.
And what we do is we allow you as the attendee to write your questions on the whiteboard.
Yep.
And then we literally, as you mentioned, we answer every single question on the whiteboard. And then we take a 15-minute break to stretch and to make it entertaining when you're stretching. This is a true story. When you get up and stretch, you'll be greeted by mariachis.
Sure.
There's going to probably be alpaca here, llamas, helicopter rides, a coffee bar, a snow cone. There's just...
You had a crocodile one time. That was pretty interesting.
You know, I should write that down and actually do that.
Sorry for that one guy that we lost.
The crocodile, we duct taped its face so that we duct taped.
No, it was a baby crocodile.
And it was duct tape.
Yeah, duct tape around the mouth so it didn't bite anybody. But it was really cool passing that thing around and
I should do that. We have a small petting zoo that will be assembled. It's going to be great. And then you're in the company of hundreds of entrepreneurs. So there's not a lot of people in America today. In fact, there's less than 10 million people today, according to U.S. Debt Clock, that identify as being self-employed. So if you have a country with 350 million people, that means you have less than 3% of our population that's even self-employed. Yeah. So you only have 3 out of every 100 people in America that are self-employed to begin with. And when Inc. magazine reports that 96% of businesses fail by default, you have a 1 out of 1,000 chance of succeeding in the game of business.
It's tough.
But yet the average client that you and I work with, we can typically double this. And this is no hyperbole, no exaggeration. And I have thousands of testimonials to back this up. We have thousands of testimonials to back it up. But when you work with a home builder, when I work with a business owner, we can typically double the size of the company within 24 months.
Yeah.
Double. And you say double? Yeah, there's businesses that we have tripled. There's businesses we've grown 8x. There's so many examples you can see at thrivetimeshow.com. But again, this is the most interactive, best business workshop on the planet. This is objectively the highest rated and most reviewed business workshop on the planet. And then you add to that Robert Kiyosaki, the best-selling author of Rich Dad, Poor Dad. You add to that Eric Trump, the man that runs the Trump Organization. You add to that Sean Baker. Now you might say, but Clay, is there more? I need more. Well, okay, Tom Wheelwright is the wealth strategist for Robert Kiyosaki. So people say, Robert Kiyosaki, who's his financial wealth advisor? Who's the guy who manages, who's his wealth strategist? His wealth strategist, Tom Wheelwright, will be here. And you say, Clay, I'm not going to get a ticket unless you give me more. Okay, fine. We're going to serve you the same meal both days. True story. We cater in the food, and because I keep it simple, I literally bring in the same food both days for lunch. It's Ted Escondido's, an incredible Mexican restaurant. That's going to happen. And Jill Donovan, our good friend, who is the founder of Rustic Cuff. She started that company in her home, and now she sells millions of dollars of apparel and products. That's rusticcuff.com. And someone says, I want more. This is not enough.
Give me more.
Okay. I'm not going to mention their names right now because I'm working on it behind the scenes here. But we've got one guy who's given me a verbal to be here. And this is a guy who's one of the wealthiest people in Oklahoma, and nobody really knows who he is because he's built systems that are very utilitarian, that offer a lot of value. He's made a lot of money in the it's where you rent. It's short term. It's where you're renting storage spaces. He's a storage space guy. He owns what do you call that? The rental,
storage space.
Storage units. This guy owns storage units. He owns railroad cars. He owns a lot of assets that make money on a daily basis, but they're not like customer facing. Most people don't know who owns the mini storage facility, or most people don't know who owns the warehouse that's passively making money. Most people don't know who owns the railroad cars, but this guy, he's given me a verbal that he will be here, and we just continue to add more and more success stories. So if you're out there today and you want to change your life, you want to give yourself an incredible gift, you want a life-changing experience, you want to learn how to start and grow a company, go to thrivetimeshow.com. Go there right now, thrivetimeshow.com. Request a ticket for the 2-day interactive event. Again, the day here is March 6th and 7th. March 6th and 7th. We just got confirmation. Robert Kiyosaki, best-selling author, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. He'll be here. Eric Trump, the man who leads the Trump organization. It's going to be a blasty blast. There's no upsells. Aaron, I could not be more excited about this event.
I think it is incredible. And there's somebody out there right now, you're watching and you're like, but I already signed up for this incredible other program called Smoke Your Way to Thin. I think that's going to change your life. I promise you, this will be 10 times better than that.
Looks like I picked the wrong week to quit smoking.
Now, don't do the Smoke Your Way to Thin conference. That is, I've tried it. Don't do it.
Yeah, chain smoking is not a viable. I mean, it is life-changing. It is life-changing. If you become a chain smoker, it is life-changing.
Not the best weight loss program, though.
Right. Really. So if you're looking to have life-changing results in a way that won't cause you to have a stoma, get your tickets at thrivetimeshow.com. Again, that's Aaron Antis. I'm Clay Clark, and reminding you and inviting you to come out to the 2-day interactive Thrive Time Show workshop right here in Tulsa, Oklahoma. I promise you, it will be a life-changing experience. We can't wait to see you right here in Tulsa, Oklahoma.